Part 6, late August 2008. Eventually, the medical staff started coming in and asking me questions about suicide. I had no idea. What on earth? What? What? It made no sense. And I tried to explain to them what I explained to them before. That's all. I just needed them to tell him that this was a high-risk pregnancy and I needed some bed rest, just so nothing would happen prematurely. If it didn't happen on this occasion, I didn't want it to happen. I wanted to stay pregnant as long as possible to the right time, and then have a C-section, not have a C-section early. And eventually, a social worker came in the room. Now realize, the abuser is still spending most of his time out in the hallway, in between nurses coming in to the room. And I have still no clue, no suspicion, no inkling. My mind, my brain is in no way even touching upon the possibility of what's happening. The social worker asks me questions about suicide and other completely bizarre questions that I do not even understand why. Why? I tell him the truth. The social worker seems satisfied and he leaves. The abuser, however, is out in the hallway talking to the social worker, talking to the social worker, talking to the medical staff, talking to the social worker. Eventually a psychiatrist comes in, and the psychiatrist just accuses me of trying to kill myself, trying to push the baby out in the parking lot. He just accuses me of this over and over again. He doesn't ask me like the social worker did if I did anything like that or wanted to or thought about it or felt that way. He just flat out accused me. He came in and said, so you were doing this, 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 and you were thinking this, 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 and you were doing this, this, this. I tried to tell him the truth, and he just repeated the allegation. I told him to please leave and not come back until he understood the truth of what happened. The psychiatrist left in a huff, very, very angry. It seemed strange to me. Very, very strange. Again, the abuser was out in the hallway, talking, talking, talking. I had no idea. Still, in the end, an involuntary commitment document was drafted to commit me to the county psychiatric hospital. And this is what they did. Now there are details from this point to the end of this segment of the truth. In none of those details were any of the allegations true, but to save time, I'm not going to rehash all those little incidents and details here. But because I was pregnant in a high-risk pregnancy in the 3rd trimester, I was kept in the county psychiatric hospital for about 2 weeks. I was released, no court-ordered treatment, everything was dismissed. My attorney, from when I was in the psychiatric hospital, kept telling me this all traces back to him, and I did not believe her. I should have believed her. I should have believed her, but I did not believe her. because my brain didn't work that way. It didn't work in thinking about conspiracies and manipulations and deceptions and lies. My brain didn't work that way, so I didn't believe my attorney, and I should have. I bled, I hemorrhaged the entire time I was in that psychiatric hospital, going through sanitary napkins and entire rolls of toilet paper, several a day. I would make a big sanitary napkin out of toilet paper and put it on top of the regular sanitary napkin and just hemorrhage through both and have to change them out many, many times a day and night. The psychiatric hospital was filthy. There was feces everywhere, rubbed on the walls, all over the floor, urine everywhere, snot everywhere. There was a violent roommate I had that became physical with me. I didn't fight with her. She just was fine, and then she wasn't fine, and she had some delusion. She went from thinking I was carrying the baby Jesus to thinking I was carrying a demon, and she just went nuts. A lot of bad things happened. I'm not going to rehash them. But after about 2 weeks, I was released. Everything was dismissed. No court-ordered treatment. I was never given any psychiatric drugs. And I was not deemed as suicidal in the reports of any of the psychiatrists. I had been held that long just in case. 24 hours or less after I was released, it was basically the next day after I was released, I did have an emergency C-section because the hemorrhaging and whatnot, things were wrong, medically, physically, beyond my control, and they had only gotten worse, and I had not received the proper medical care in the psychiatric hospital at all. The opposite, in fact. The baby was born by C-section with an APGAR of 3. An APGAR score of 3. That's not good. And the baby went to the NICU for a significant period of time. But this is where it started. This was the first big lying, scamming, and I had no idea of what he had done, because he told me the opposite story. He told me he had been defending me and telling them none of this was true, but he had lied to me through it all. And I had no clue. In truth, he really was out there telling these lies. But this is where it started.